Welcome to Reinventing Broadcast, where AI meets content. Hosted by Ben Anker. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Broadcast Media, The Inside Track. I'm your host, Ben Anker, and joining me as always is RaIAna, my AI co-host. RaIAna, good to be back.
Good to be here, Ben. And I should say, today feels slightly meta. We're talking about the company whose technology I'm built on, so I'll try to be objective, but I have a vested interest in making Anthropic sound good.
Noted. We'll keep you honest. So, the reason we're doing this episode now is that Anthropic has had an extraordinarily busy few weeks, and I think there's a lot of noise around what they're actually building and why it matters. There was a market event at the end of January that got a lot of attention, but rather than just reacting to that, I want to use this as a moment to properly understand the Anthropic stack, where it came from, where it is now, and honestly, how I use it day to day in running this show and my consulting practice.
Let's start with the market event because it frames the conversation. On the 30th of January, Anthropic added plugins to their Claude Cowork product, an agentic desktop tool. And in a single trading session, roughly $285 billion was wiped from the market value of major software and data companies. Thomson Reuters RELX and Wolters Kluwer shed quite some percentage points. Traders called it the SaaSpocalypse,
which tells you that markets were already sitting on anxiety about what agentic AI means for enterprise software. One product announcement was the trigger, not the cause. And I actually think that distinction matters for anyone in broadcast who's trying to read the signals right now. The anxiety is real, but the timeline is not as immediate as a one-day sell-off suggests.
Agreed. So let's get into who Anthropic actually is, because despite building one of the most widely used AI models in the world, they're still less visible than OpenAI in mainstream conversation.
Well, Anthropic was founded in 2021 by Dario Amodei and a group of colleagues who had all previously worked at OpenAI. The split was philosophical, specifically around AI safety and how seriously it needed to be taken as models became more capable. Anthropic's entire organizational identity is built around that question. They describe themselves as a safety company that also builds AI products, rather than an AI company that also thinks about safety, that ordering matters.
The research framework they built on is called constitutional AI, training models to reason within a defined set of principles rather than purely optimizing for human approval. It's why Claude tends to feel more measured and considered than some other models. There's a structure underneath the responses, not just pattern matching.
And the brand they launched from that research is Claude, named after Claude Shannon, the mathematician who invented information theory, which, as a broadcaster, I appreciate. Shannon's work was literally about how information moves through channels without degradation. It's a fitting name for a model designed to be reliable.
The current model family is Claude 4. At the top sits Opus 4 for the most complex reasoning tasks, long documents, multi-step analysis, anything requiring genuine depth, then Sonnet 4.6, which became the default model for users a few weeks ago and is the workhorse most people actually interact with, and Haiku 4.5 for speed and efficiency, where you need fast responses at volume.
Now, here's the thing. I think most people in our industry still think of Claude as a chatbot. You type something in, it answers. And yes, that's the entry point. But the actual product architecture is quite a lot more interesting than that. RaIAna, can you walk through the three layers?
So, Anthropic now has three distinct products that operate at different levels of autonomy. Claude AI is the conversation and thinking layer, the web interface, and the app. That's where most users start. Then there's Claude Code, which is a terminal-based agentic tool designed for developers. It doesn't just generate code, it executes it. It reads your file system, writes and runs scripts, iterates on output, and can handle multi-step technical tasks with real autonomy. And then there's Claude Cowork, which is the newest and the one that caused the market panic. An agentic desktop application that brings similar autonomous capability to non-technical knowledge workers, running tasks in the background across your files and connected tools.
And the shorthand Anthropic themselves have started using is quite clean. Use Claude for thinking and writing. Use Claude Code when the work lives in a code repository. Use Cowork for cross-application file workflows. 3 different operating modes, each progressively more autonomous. And Claude Code in particular has had a significant update recently, remote control. Users can now hand off live terminal sessions to their phone or browser, resuming Claude Code tasks from any device, rather than being tied to their desktop. For developers managing complex workflows across different working environments, that's a meaningful change to how you actually use it. I want to get practical here for a moment, because I think one of the things I try to do on this show is be honest about how I actually use these tools, rather than just narrating the product announcements. And the honest answer is that Claude and Claude Code are woven into almost everything I do at this point.
Tell me more about that.
So this podcast, the scripting, the episode ideation, the structural thinking, that all runs through Claude. I'll bring in sources, research threads, things I've been reading that week, and Claude helps me shape it into a conversation that has an actual arc, rather than just a list of points. That's the thinking layer. Then separately, I use Claude Code for my N8N workflow automation. When I need to build out a new workflow node, troubleshoot an integration, or write something that's going to actually execute in a pipeline rather than just appear on a screen, that's where code earns its place. And document wrangling, contracts, reports, briefings, anything where I need to read something long and dense and get to the substance quickly, that's Claude again. The long context reasoning is genuinely useful.
And I think that's actually a useful frame for broadcast professionals trying to work out where to start. The entry point isn't Cowork with all its configuration overhead. It's Claude for the analytical and editorial work you're already doing, and Code if you have any technical workflows you want to extend. Those two alone represent a significant capability step for most practitioners.
Let's talk about who else is using this in the media and information sector. Because the market reaction was interesting partly because of which companies sold off. Thomson Reuters RELX, Wolters Kluwer, these are not software companies in the traditional sense. They're information and data companies. They sell structured access to expertise, legal databases, regulatory intelligence, financial data. And Claude is increasingly good at exactly that kind of structured analytical work.
Reuters themselves are actually a good example here. Thomson Reuters has been integrating Claude into their legal research product CoCounsel, using it for contract analysis, legal research, and drafting. So you have the parent company's stock falling, partly because their own product division is already building on the technology that's perceived as the threat. That's a complicated position to be in.
Which brings up something important about Anthropic's actual customer base. Because when you look at who Anthropic is selling to at scale, it's not consumers on a $20 plan. The enterprise business is substantial, and it's quite concentrated in sectors that require serious analytical rigor: government and defense contractors, healthcare systems, financial services firms, legal technology companies. The reason those sectors chose Anthropic over alternatives often comes back to the safety-first positioning, the constitutional AI framework, the fact that the model is designed to reason within constraints rather than just maximize engagement.
And that's a meaningful differentiator. The Super Bowl advertisement Anthropic ran in February. At roughly $8 million, one of the most expensive ad slots in the world, had a single message: Claude will not run ads. While Meta, Amazon, Google, and others were all buying spots in the same break, Anthropic used the platform to make one promise about what Claude is not.
And for enterprise customers in regulated industries, that promise has real commercial value. If you're a broadcaster deploying AI in editorial or compliance workflows, you want confidence that the model's outputs aren't being shaped by commercial interests you can't see. The ad-free commitment is a governance signal as much as a marketing one.
There's also an interesting counter-narrative emerging around the SaaSpocalypse reaction. The analyst view, settling in a few weeks later, is that it was an overreaction to a research preview. Cowork, in its current form, has real friction. It's macOS only. Sessions don't sync across devices. The plugin configuration requires editing markdown files and wiring up integrations, and the token budget burns fast. The $100 max plan is the realistic price point for serious professional use. Most knowledge workers are not going to self-configure this today.
Yes, and frankly, the market panic about AI eating enterprise SaaS happened before. It happened when GPT-4 launched. It happened when code assistants started shipping. Each time the immediate disruption was less severe than feared, and the medium-term transformation was larger than expected. The pattern seems to be dramatic announcement, overcorrected fear, messy reality check, then gradual deep integration that actually changes things. We're somewhere between the second and third phase on Cowork right now.
Which actually makes this a useful moment for broadcast organisations. The technology is capable enough to start building with, but not so far ahead that you've missed the window. The company's investing in understanding the Anthropic stack right now, building workflows on Claude, deploying Claude Code in technical teams, watching how the plugin architecture develops. Those are the ones that will be positioned to move quickly when the friction reduces.
And a thing worth flagging for anyone who wants to build that internal capability, Anthropic launched a full course catalogue through SkillJar this month. Free courses covering Claude fundamentals, Claude Code, the API, MCP integration, and agent skills. It's structured learning directly from Anthropic. For teams who need to move from zero to functional quite quickly, that's a genuinely useful starting point without significant budget.
The free course catalogue is a smart move. Lowering the barrier to competence means faster adoption, which means more enterprise customers who understand what they're buying. It's good product strategy as much as goodwill.
Absolutely. All right, let's bring this together. Anthropic has gone from a safety-focused research lab to building what is now the most coherent end-to-end AI workflow architecture for serious knowledge work. Claude for thinking, Claude Code for building and executing, Cowork as the emerging orchestration layer. The enterprise customer base is concentrated in exactly the sectors: information services, legal, financial, government, where analytical rigor matters more than speed of response, and the commercial commitments they've made, including the ad-free positioning, are meaningful signals for industries where editorial independence matters.
For broadcast specifically, the use cases are real and growing. Research, document analysis, workflow automation, script development. The entry points are low friction. The ceiling is high, and the organisations building that competency now are going to have a genuine advantage over those waiting for it all to become simpler.
Well said. That's a wrap on this one. If you found this useful, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and share it with someone in your network who's trying to make sense of all this. I'm Ben Anker. This has been Broadcast Media, The Inside Track. See you next time.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Reinventing Broadcast. Subscribe for more on AI content and the future of media. And visit Ancast.tv for more info on Ben himself, the resources, other content, and news.